What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new around here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I have a very special guest. Today, I'm interviewing my friend Daniel James, and we are talking all things mindset and identity and how it is the catalyst to get on the other side of every goal you have, your dream body, your dream life, stop patterns of sabotage, and to accomplish every single thing you want to accomplish. Now, Daniel was on the podcast like a couple years ago, but fast forward to now, he exclusively helps coach people on their mindset, on their identity, and on the mental side of achieving everything they want to achieve. And he actually just wrote and published his newest book, The Identity Wheel. So we talked about all things identity, all things mindset, all things almost like peak performance and getting out of your own way. So in this episode, you're going to get a lot out of this if you are into a lot of the more mindset, deeper conversations and things like that. So I won't take any more time and I will get him on the line. Tell me about the book, man. So I'm actually extra excited to to do the podcast about it because identity work is one of the biggest things I teach and that I talk about, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable around. And so I'm so excited to dive into the book and dive into like your thoughts about I've never even heard of the concept of the identity wheel. So give me just like, let's talk about the book. Like, why the book? What is the identity wheel? Like, just let's get into all of it.
So again, like you talk about there, like the work that you do, it's so deep rooted in identity. Obviously, my background is personal training. So I was face-to-face personal training for 12 years before I then stepped away and then went into mindset coaching. So exactly the same stuff that you're talking about there is that when you're working with somebody, you are fundamentally changing their identity. But you may have been the same as me. Like when you first start out in the fitness industry, you don't know that's what you're doing. You're just like, no, I'm trying to help you to change. And then you keep not getting them to change. And then as a good coach, you're thinking, this is a me problem, not a client problem, because I'm the one that stopped not getting them results. So then the more I kind of unpicked it, the more I realized it was a mindset thing. And it'd always be, I'll be happy when I get the six pack, the bigger bum, the bigger arms, insert thing, and then I'll be happy. And again, moving away from the fitness industry, it's the same thing. I'll be happy when I get this, more money, better job, a family, a boyfriend, girlfriend, And it's realizing that the reason why most people don't get the thing that they want, or when they get it, they're not happy, is because fundamentally there is something within their identity that is stopping them actually being happy and still telling them that they are not enough. So for me, the identity wheel came about bizarrely when I was at a Buddhism center. So when I hit my rock bottom, lost everything, 28, had to move back in with my parents, lost my business, lost my house, thousands of pounds worth of debt. I was just searching for answers. I think this was around about the time that I first came across yourself when you were at Arte and you kind of popped up. So again, listened to a lot of Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, all the good stuff. Andy Frisella actually got me onto a book called The Law of Attraction that really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And I was sat there, having just done a Tony Robbins course at this Buddhism center, and they were talking about the Dharma wheel. And something in my head just connected all this information I've been learning and put it into like a circle for me. And that's then when it came with this wheel. I originally called it the Buddha wheel, but through writing the book, I realized I needed to change it to something that was less religious. But fundamentally, all it is that we have this invisible wheel that's driving our life and determining the decisions and actions that we take. So if you imagine a steering wheel, and at the front of it, the mechanism that actually moves it is your identity. So your identity is almost the labels that you wear. For example, people watching this on video, I've got tattoos, you wouldn't know. You don't know I've got tattoos unless I decide to show you. Much like our identity. They're labels, they're tattoos, they're things that no one else can see, but we know. And a lot of times identity is the I am statements that we say. But it's not the I am statements that we say when we're with our friends. Oh, I'm happy, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm successful. For me, it's the things we say to ourselves and about ourselves when we're at home alone, or when we make a mistake. And we say, God, I'm such an idiot. I'm such a loser. I'm so unlovable. I'm never going to be successful. That right there is the real identity that's actually driving your life without you realizing it. And for me, I talk about it in the book that most of us don't have an identity, we have a lie-dentity. And a lie-dentity is lies that we were told to us by people that maybe didn't believe in us and didn't really understand us. And it normally happens in our infant years, between the age of 0 and 7. But again, it can happen through our teenage years. And we're told we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're unlovable, we're too much. And actually, it's this lie-dentity that we believe is our identity that's then driving the wheel. So this identity or lie-dentity is bubbling away underneath the surface, and it will generate the thoughts that we have on a daily basis. So if we've got this negativity bubbling away, negative thoughts are just going to pop up. And again, some of the thoughts can be very intrusive. And over time, we keep repeating these thoughts over and over and over again. And what's happening is we're creating beliefs. So a lot of us are walking around with beliefs that actually we never chose. And they're not facts, they are beliefs. They're simply thoughts that we never stop to question. So then these beliefs create feelings. And a lot of the times I say to people, if you don't know what you're thinking, how you're feeling will tell you. Because you can't be thinking of bunny rabbits and unicorns and feeling anxious and nervous. The reason why you're feeling anxious and nervous is because you're thinking, or you have a habitual thought pattern of things that are causing that anxiety, that fear, that worry, that depression. So we've got the identity that leads to the thoughts lead to the feelings. These feelings then determine the actions that we take or don't take. And a lot of the times, we don't take action because we don't feel like we can do it. We feel anxious, nervous, worried. So we don't do anything. And that action or inaction leads to results, which then confirm to us what we thought about ourselves in the first place. And that wheel completes the turn, locks in, and cements that identity that we told ourselves. And it's just going round and round and round. And like I said in the book, it's once you understand each part of this, you can then become like a skilled DJ and intersect it at any point. So it's not saying you've got to go right into the identity stuff, because as you know, that's the hard stuff. Like just try and unpick some people's subconscious programming. That is hard. To figure out what people are thinking, again, very hard. But actually, if you can pick it up with the actions or get people to sit with their emotions and start to understand and process it, you can then intersect the wheel there and start to change the bits before and after it.
Yeah, that's so good. It reminds me of, there's a couple of things that I'll teach, like when I'm working with people, where whenever I call it the 3 P's of negative thinking, is whenever something comes up, we make it, as the human condition, we make it personal, pervasive, and permanent. But all of those have identity reflections. Like if in my neck of the woods, let's say someone, I don't know, overeats, and they're like, and they're like, they feel it, and they're like, I'm such a failure. Personal. I'm not I overate. An action is I'm an overeater. I'm a binger. I'm a fuck up. I'm a piece of shit. What's wrong with it? It's a personal attack. That we make it pervasive. It's everything. I might as well not even try anything else. I might as well just give up. All these I statements come out, and then it's permanent. It'll be like this forever. I'll never make it. It's more of these. It's all egoic completely, but it is all centered around the identity. Because you're right. Then we have bad actions that follow suit, and then that locks in like, oh, this must be who I am. And then like,
which is this horrendous cycle. We don't realize it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Exactly what you say there. It's like we don't realize that these thoughts that we're having are not us. We have thoughts. We are not our thoughts.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we're saying there like, I am. So no. I'm noticing that I'm having the thought that I am this. So it's just, again, separating yourself from your thoughts. And a lot of the times, again, I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but myself, when I was in a very dark place, like you can't see the wood from the trees. Like you're so locked into this negative thinking. But as soon as you can just create that space and separate and realize you are not your thoughts. You are having these thoughts. And yes, again, the body can respond to these thoughts. So it makes it feel like they are real.
Right.
But your thoughts are not real. The brain lies to you. Like the brain loves to lie, loves to distort things. It likes to make you, as you said, that piece of shit. But where's it got that information from? What I say to people is, would you choose to think this way? And if the answer is no, then who's choosing? And normally, it's an ex-partner, it's a parent, it's a relative, it's a teacher. And they're the ones that are fundamentally steering their life. And they're not even realizing it.
One of my favorite things that when I'm working with people on their like identity work is one of my favorite things that makes everyone sit back in their chair and immediately cause separation is I'll go, whose voice is that? Like when they go, well, I feel like I whatever. And I go, whose voice is that? Because I'm not convinced it's yours. But you're right. Everyone believes that every thought that they think is themselves. But like I had a client, she was just going through a hard time, and she's like, her exact words were something along the lines of, and for context, this was a I don't know, 30-year-old, very nice, wholesome woman, very compassionate human being. We'll set that here. She goes, I just feel like if I don't do this right, I'm a piece of shit, and I should just be able to do this the right way, and I should never mess up, and this should just be da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that just, it felt so out of character from what I knew about her. And I said, hear me out on this. I said, weird question. Whose voice is that? Because that sounds like a very authoritative dad. That does not sound like this loving, compassionate mom in front of me. And she goes, yeah, my dad always said, and she started quoting her dad, but it was because of how old conditioning comes in. Is her dad metaphorically was running the autopilot mechanisms in her brain, but she was convinced it was her. So one of my favorite things, and I was actually working with a therapist at this time. I didn't know it. I'd make this hand gesture. If those are watching the episode of the podcast, as I go, we have to separate ourselves, or it's like, it's the ego, it's the whatever, and I would do this weird hand gesture. But if we don't cause separation, then we just stay. It's like we just stay in the identity. It's like I think of it like, you remember the Spider-Man movie with the black Spider-Man, where like the black one, the alien takes over in the bell tower scene where he's like peeling it off of him and it almost kills him. I'm like, that's the perfect representation of what identity work is.
Exactly. But there's also realizing, and the key thing you said there is that that's a prime example of the lie-dentity. Like, she'd taken on this thing her dad had said to her, and she was wearing it as if it was hers. And it's really interesting you say that. Like, whose voice is that? Because normally when you say whose voice is that, they'll say, oh, it's my voice, because they're hearing themselves say it. Mm-hmm. It's like, but the words, and it's like when they actually stop and think about it, it's the words that, wow, that's my dad, or that's my mum, because they're using words and phrases that they would never ever use, but they don't even realize that they're doing it. And it's like it all takes that person to almost like snap them out of that state, because they've been conditioned for so long to do it, they don't even realize. And again, you probably do as well. Like, I catch myself sometimes sounding like my dad. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I sound like my dad. But I'm aware that I'm doing it. It's nothing bad,
right?
But people are literally doing that, and it is negative, it is bad, it's destructive patterns, and it's not necessarily. This is where, again, when it comes to this identity and this subconscious programming, it's not necessarily trauma that's happened to us. A lot of times people think that it's something really traumatic that had to have happened to us. No, it could have been something that you heard. It could have been something that you saw. And again, it could have been really subtle, but then you just sat there and you just replayed it. Mm-hmm. And what I say is like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. So it's not, sometimes when we're talking about this, it's not that something big and traumatic had to have happened, because again, nowadays, everything seems to be a trauma. It doesn't have to be that. Mm-hmm. It could literally just be something you heard or saw, and your mum constantly stepping on the scales, constantly comparing herself to other people. So again, that's nothing that has happened to you. Yeah. But in your brain, it's like, right, I love my mum. Mum was really worried about her weight and what other people think. So I want to be like my mum. I should be doing that. Mm-hmm. And we don't connect the two dots.
Yeah, I completely. I think the other part is something that I talk to people about a lot is this concept of what you do is different than who you are. One's a noun, one's a verb, where too often we struggle with something and then we take it from a verb as in an action that we did and we make it a noun of who we are. It's a person, place, or thing. But that wouldn't work anywhere else in our life. So for example, that's really relevant in my neck of the woods. Let's say someone binge eats. They go from an activity of binge ate. I binge ate food last night. And then they go, well, I binge eat a lot. I must be a binger. That moment it crossed into the field of identity. It went from an action or a verb to a noun. And now you identify with it. Now that runs on autopilot. So you keep binge eating, because I don't think people realize, and this is one of my favorite things to talk about with identity work, is there is a very delicate relationship, a survival relationship between the identity and the subconscious mind, because your brain only wants you to live. It doesn't care about anything else. So you breaking free from your limitation, because it's an identity, is death. So the brain's like, no, it's safer to binge eat. It's safer to be a perfectionist. It's safer to be an all or nothing person. It's safer to be a whatever the I am statement is, but it's causing havoc to be wreaked in the life.
And that's what I also say to people, especially a lot of the time, again, relating back to fat loss specifically, is that especially, and again, I'm generalizing a lot here. So when I'm talking, I'm not speaking to everybody listening. I'm just as a general statement, and it's from a specific client I had, is that she was morbidly obese. And there was something, every time she lost weight, she felt unsafe. So we had to try and pick, well, why did she feel unsafe? It turns out something very traumatic happened to her as a child, some horrific abuse. And what happened is that eating had actually saved her life. She hadn't connected the dots. So she was sat there now looking at this, again, in her words, this grotesque, ugly, horrendous person, and berating it, belittling it, saying how disgusting it was. I'm like, that person saved your life. Like, if you had not had food, where would you be? And she was like, I probably wouldn't be here. I was like, all right. So first of all, let's come at it with a bit of compassion. You did the best with the information you had at the time. And for you, food was safety, food was comfort, food was love. So you had no control over that. You didn't know that, oh, I'll eat in moderation, I'll be fine. You were a child. So what then happened was you made yourself so ugly and, in her words, grotesque, that no one would go near you. Again, protection. So now you're losing the weight, which is what you want. You are now afraid and vulnerable that people are going to find you attractive again, and this then event may happen again, that you freak out and you get back to the comfort. So once you kind of recognize this pattern and realize it was a safety thing, an identity thing, that then became, right, well, no, I'm an adult now.
Sure.
I can protect myself. I can defend myself. Like, I can choose differently. And then it's also on the binge eating thing as well. A lot of the times, especially if it's high performers, high achievers, not all the time, they struggle to slow down. Because when they struggle to slow down and stop, they've got to be with themselves. And when they've got to be with themselves, they've got to face uncomfortable emotions and feelings. And because, once again, we're not taught how to navigate and deal with this and realize that our emotions are like signposts. Just because we're feeling something doesn't mean we have to take action on it. It's like when that car engine light goes on. It's just saying, hey, we need to check something. Something's not quite right under the hood. Check it out. Same with our emotions. If we're getting these uncomfortable feelings and emotions, that's the body saying, hey, I'm not okay. We need to check in with this. But what we tend to do is put some duct tape over it, ignore it. We should go to food. We should go to food. We should ignore it. It'll be fine. Food. We should, oh, it's gone now. I'm fine. Cool, brilliant. No, it's not fine. And eventually that catches up with us.
Yeah.
And again, that's the identity stuff of realizing, like, right, there's something there. There's something happening, whether we are aware of it or not, on a subconscious level, that we have to sit with. And this is where it's uncomfortable. And again, working with a coach, therapist, counselor, whatever the preference is, because it can be difficult doing it by yourself. And that's what I say in the start of the book. Like, I've literally put a roadmap in the book. It's my coaching in a book. That's what it is. I've not gate kept anything. I don't know if you get it, but I hate it when I read books and it's very evident that the person writing the book is basically saying, here's a sprinkle. Yeah. You've got to pay me X amount of money and I'll give you the rest. I hate it. I can't stand it. So for me, it's like, no, here's my book. This book will help you. But at the start, I've got a disclaimer saying, hey, like, some of the questions at the end of each chapter might be difficult for you. So actually, you might want to seek out a therapist, counselor, or a professional to go through it with, because it can be very uncomfortable. Because a lot of times we're not even aware of some of this stuff. We're not aware of the reason why we're binge eating. We're not aware of this uncomfortable thing. We've completely forgotten about that thing that happened to us. And again, that's also part of it where it can be quite scary.
Yeah.
And having someone who can hold that space for you is like you said, you've done therapy, I've done therapy. It's game changing to have that space.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too, especially when we get emotions involved, because emotions are such a they're so real feeling, right? Like it's a nervous system response. But you're exactly right that they're just messengers. They're just like, hey, this is what's going on. But one of the biggest things I see people struggle with who have identity issues is if they have, let me see if I can say this the right way. If every time they feel something, a belief shifts, they're on a daily identity crisis. If they feel good, they're like, cool, I'm crushing it. I'm awesome. Because I feel good, I'm awesome. I'm losing weight, for example. I'm making progress. But as soon as the scale spikes, or as soon as they have a rough day, they're anxious, they're sad, they had a fight with their partner, whatever, they go, oh, I'm discouraged. That must mean I'm worthless. That must mean I'm regressing. If every emotion equals a belief or an identity, you're just on an identity roller coaster every day. This is where I think it's so important. I'd love to hear your take on it. Is I'm really big on the concept of feeling emotions, but not drawing narratives. Let's just feel the emotion of, cool, I feel discouraged. I feel anxious. I feel sad. I feel stressed. but then there's a period there. Not, so it must mean I'm too far gone, I'm too old. Like, well, we don't need to go there. That's actually the denial of the emotion. So what would you say to the person who struggles with feeling things and not drawing a narrative? They step on the scale, they're overwhelmed, they're disheartened. So I need to go lose weight, when that's not true. Or they feel something, but they instantly draw a narrative, and now they have a new belief they have to go fight. What would you say to that person?
So I love what you said there, is instantly. I instantly have to do this thing. And again, I write about this in the book where I talk about it. I can't remember the exact word that I used in the book, but essentially that first feeling and emotion that we get, we can't control. It's habitual, it's automatic. We cannot control that. We can choose and control the secondary emotion and response to that initial thing. So for me, in the moment, when you step on that scale, you're going to feel a certain way. Disappointed, angry, upset, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Can't control that. That's automatic. But the goal, and again, keyword goal, meaning it's a process. The goal is to pause, stop, breathe. Why has the weight gone up this week? Get curious. Because if you just sat there and smashed 7 bags of M&Ms, you know why it's gone up. Like, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a failure. That's why. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm on my period. Oh, I'm on medication. Cool. Perfect. That's fine. Data, move on. And again, in other areas of our life, it's not just stepping on the scales. The goal should be just to have that space and just sit like, that's interesting. Why do I feel this way? And I love the phrase to try to teach my clients, that's interesting. Just get inquisitive. So we're sat there and we're feeling overwhelmed. That's interesting. Why am I feeling overwhelmed?
It's very curious.
Exactly, get curious. But here's the thing. In the moment, you're not going to be able to do it.
Right.
So the formula I teach my clients is pain plus reflection equals progress. So in the moment, there's going to be pain because you're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to go back to your old patterns and it's going to probably be destructive and you're going to feel pretty awful afterwards. Now, most people then sit in that pain and they just keep repeating it over again. I'm such a fat loser. I'm an idiot. I'm never going to be successful. The goal needs to be to reflect. Now, you can reflect however you want to reflect, but my personal favorite is journaling. I can go into detail about that if you want, but I love journaling. So as soon as you've come out of that emotional response and you've settled back down to your normal, why did you react that way? And start to get curious. What happened before you stepped on the scales? What was your emotional state going into that experience? What was the trigger, step on the scale, and then what was the response? So then actually you're getting the pattern, you're getting the trigger, the action, and then the final emotion. Okay, next time I'm in a situation where I'm noticing that I'm starting to feel that way, how would I like to respond? Because we then start to notice that stepping onto the scale, you're probably feeling a bit anxious and nervous before you've even done anything. Okay, interesting. I'm noticing that I'm feeling a bit anxious and nervous. Okay, what did I say I was going to do? I was going to breathe. Okay. I was also going to remind myself that whatever this number is, it doesn't define my self-worth. And it's just data. Okay, cool. Right, okay. Step on the scale. Okay. But straight away, you've got yourself into a place of calm before that initial trigger. Now, seeing a number going up still may trigger you. And again, the word trigger, a bit of a buzzword, it basically means a thought, feeling, or emotion that's potentially undesirable. But a trigger can also be desirable. So you've primed yourself to be calm, step on it, it's still undesirable, but you're still at a lessened, heightened state than you would have been had you not gone into it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So for me, it's all about that reflection. The goal is just to reflect when things don't go your way and understand your patterns, because everyone's got a pattern. For example, road rage. Someone doesn't cut you up and you just suddenly go crazy. That's not how it works.
Right.
Like you'll start to grip the steering wheel beforehand. You'll notice your heart's going, or you're in your own head, and then someone cuts you up, and then you explode. Like we have these little patterns, and sometimes it can be very quick. For me, the whole part of identity work is just understanding who are you. What are your patterns? What are your triggers? How do you tend to respond? How do you tend to react? What kind of people do you get on well with? What kind of people don't you get on well with? And more importantly, what are you going to do about it? Because a lot of the times you want the world to change. The world is not going to change. The world is not perfect, and the world is not fair. It never has been perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Never was fair. Never is going to be fair. So we have to accept that the world is what it is. We can't change that, but we can change our internal state that changes how we go into the world So actually we can have a better experience and, more importantly, start to lead the life that we want to live. And more importantly, I believe, deserve to live.
I fully believe, this may be controversial, I fully believe the world is reflecting what your identity is.
Agreed.
I mean, even if we just like take a step back and like get some neuroscience out of the way, if the conscious mind can only process like let's say 50 bits of information per second, but the subconscious mind can process about 11 million bits of information per second, what your beliefs around yourself and how you show up in the world is going to dictate what's in your awareness and dictate what you attract and dictate the things that you see. Like, It's why for those that don't know, like it's why like I know you know like about the RAS, like the reticular activating system, where like if you have a white van, you see those everywhere. You get rid of the white van, you buy a blue truck, you now see the blue truck everywhere. Well, if that's why I think everything is a delayed. I've been using that term a lot lately. The delayed mirror. Everything is a delayed mirror from your identity. Your results are a delayed mirror of the beliefs you hold about yourself, but also. Like it's no wonder I know so many people in my life who their identity is that like nothing ever good happens to them. When it rains, it pours. They literally can't do good for like a week without something bad going on in their life. And I've never seen such poor luck in individuals. But I have this belief around myself. Part of my identity that I've sculpted is I am protected. I am divinely guided. I just have magic stuff happen. If there's a 1 in a million chance, it's going to happen to you, boy. Like just crazy stuff like that happens to me because I'm special. That is part of the core beliefs of who I am. So now my brain sees it and I go, oh, that solidified and fed and enabled that belief more. There's data. That's evidence. That's proof. That's data. That's evidence. That's proof. And then it just feeds itself into this vicious monster in a good way. So when it rains, it pours for the negative. I believe when it rains, it pours, it's for good. So I think that's for me is everything's a delayed mirror from the actual beliefs you hold about yourself.
And again, this is something that a lot more people talk about now. And again, it's a nervous system. So again, that person where all this bad stuff happens, and again, people won't like to hear this, but a lot of people thrive in chaos because that's how their nervous system is primed. And actually, when good things do happen, they don't know how to handle it. Again, I'm sure you know people like this that constantly complain about their exes, constantly complain. They then get with a good partner. Within a couple of months, something's happened. What's happened is they've self-sabotaged because actually they don't know how to navigate that safety. They can't handle it. And again, I'm sure that I heard this off Ed Milet originally, the thermostat analogy. That actually, if you're set at 30 degrees and your life goes to 40, obviously I'm using Celsius, you use Fahrenheit, so you can convert it for your listeners, 30 degrees Celsius, and it goes up to 40, what's going to happen is you're going to find a way to turn the air conditioning on to go back to 30. Yeah. Because actually your nervous system is primed to 30, like your identity is primed to 30. And again, it's the exact same thing we're saying about the reticular activating system, the same thing. We're just basically constantly looking around, show me why I'm no good, show me why I'm unlovable, show me why I'm a loser. And your brain's like, okay, fine, shows you all the evidence. And again, listening to this or watching this, again, a real life example of this is just look around your room right now. Obviously, if you're driving your car, don't start looking around, but just try and look in your house or the room you're in and try and count as many red things as you can possibly see. Like just count as many red things as you can possibly see. Keep counting, look around, count all the red things, and then look back at the screen or look away from your room, look at the phone or whatever you're listening to this on, and then tell me how many blue things you saw. Maybe 1 or 2 things. Now, again, caveat to this, I did this before with a group of neurodiverse students. And it turns out they saw everything. So they came back to me and went, I can tell you all the purple colours, the blue colours. I was like, okay, yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. With that example that you just gave, if let's say you put a little bit more stuff on the line. Like, let's say you're like, I'll give you $100 for every red thing. You're convinced, you're convinced that same person is convincing themselves the burgundy things were red, or the brown was like rust, which is kind of red. Whereas but it's the same thing here. One of the most powerful exercises I've had clients do with this is when they don't see the progress right in front of them. Like, I can't tell you, I'm sure you've saw this when you were a trainer, the amount of wins in progress in someone, and they're just like, I just don't see it because they're looking for how fat they are. But one thing I started doing is I had clients, I go, cool. They would say, I just don't see what you see, Jared. I go, cool. I want you to look for the I want you to make a list, a running total of every piece of progress that you can identify. I said, but here's the caveat. What if I pay you $100 per item? They're like, oh, I go, I'm not paying you $100, but I want you to look at it with the intent as if I did. Like if I was going to pay you $1,000, how many wins would you find? You're convinced, you're making so many convincing things like that's technically progress. That's good. Oh, I would have done this and I did this instead. And you would find like 23. Ironically, every client I've done that, they had the next best week of their life. Like they're like, oh, things are crushing. But my question is, why aren't we looking that hard when we're not being bribed? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And same in life as well. Like the exact same thing with life. So we're talking about, yes, from a fat loss point of view, but also when it comes to happiness as well.
Yeah.
The amount of people that come to me and like, I just want to be happy. How about cool? What does happiness mean to you? What does happiness mean to you? So you can't define it. Okay, right. So how are you ever going to get something that you don't know what it is? Like driving a boat and not having a destination. Mm-hmm. Like, and again, same with success. I want to be successful. Okay, what does success mean to you? Okay, how are you ever going to know that you're on the right path? And more importantly, how are you ever going to be able to make decisions that move you in that direction? Because you don't know. You could be making decisions that move you the complete opposite way to a successful, happy life, right? Because you haven't actually defined what it is you want. So same with yourself. Like, you know, again, within your business, I'm assuming, where you want to go. Again, we spoke a little about this off air. Now, so if I come to you and offer you something and it's moving you in the complete opposite direction from where you're going, you're not going to take it. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you going to take it? Because you know, actually, that's a great offer. I'd love to do it. But actually, this is where I want to go, where my heart's set and where I want to take my business. But if you don't know that, you're like a magpie and you're drawn to it. Oh, shiny thing. And now suddenly, without realizing it, you've just steered your entire life and business in the complete opposite way without realizing it. Now, again, that could end up working out. But that wasn't by design. It's going to be a lot harder, especially if you're fighting against your values. Right. So if that's not necessarily in alignment with your values, and again, you don't know what your values are, that whole process could be really difficult, frustrating for you, because you haven't sat to be like, right, what do I value? What's important to me? What are my values? What are my morals? That's my compass. And again, where am I going? Where's my goals? Sure. And you can start to have these conversations with yourself. Is this decision moving me closer or further away from my goal? Yeah. And then, is this decision or action moving me closer or further away from the person that I want to become? So just those two questions alone that I train my clients to ask. Yeah. Just stop you, gets you to think, actually, yes, this is moving me closer towards my goal, but actually, it's not the person I want to be. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. Doesn't sit well with me, doesn't align with me. Okay, cool. Right. So now you're starting to make logical, conscious decisions rather than, oh, that looks good, let's do that. Oh, new diet, let's do that. Oh, new gym opens up, oh, let's do that. Oh, CrossFit, high rocks. And it's like, we're just constantly doing all this stuff and we're like a rocking horse. We're moving, but there's no progress. And we're getting frustrated thinking it's the thing that's the problem. It's because we're not making a decision. And again, the word decision means to cut yourself off from all of the possibility. Mm-hmm. When we decide to do something, we are literally burning the ships. We're going in this direction. Right. Whereas a lot of us, we don't make a decision. We choose. Meaning we can then choose something else if we don't like it. No. Decide. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure it out, but that's where I'm going. Mm-hmm. And again, after a year, 2 years, if it's not working out, okay. But to give up after a month or two, bearing in mind you may have been living the same way for 20 or 30 years, and you think that you're going to completely flip that in 2 months. It's not how it works. It's not how it works.
So when it comes to this, because I know how I do it, and I'm really curious to learn this from your side. How does someone shift their identity? They're listening, they're going, okay, I get it. Identity is important. It's a big deal, but I don't know how to even do that. Like, how do I, like, if my current identity is the problem, how do I change that? How do I shift it? How do I become this whatever? What would you say to that person?
The first thing is, so there's a formula, you may have heard it before. B times do equals have.
I use be do have all the time.
It's game changing. It's so simple and basic. Yep. So again, got to start with the end. Well, first of all, like I just said there, what do you want to have? So in order to change your identity, we first have to identify, okay, where is it that we are going? Now, for a lot of people, especially, I don't know if you found this, Joe, but for people that are accustomed to living in chaos, and for every silver lining there's a cloud, to set a goal, it freaks people out. Oh, I don't know what I want. Okay, well, have you ever just sat and asked yourself, like properly sat and asked yourself, what do you want? And again, if you can't do that, 2 things I do is the first one is write out your ideal day. So no, money's not an option. So money's not a limitation for you. Like, do whatever you want, have whatever you want. What's your ideal day look like? That's a good way to get the juices flowing. Second thing you can do is write out a list of things you don't want. Because like we said, people are tuned to negativity. They can give you a million things they don't want. Okay, well, write that down, because then you can reverse engineer it. So I don't want to work a 9 to 5. Okay. So do you want to work remotely? Or do you like what? Oh, okay, actually, no, I don't want 9 to 5. Yeah, I'd like to work remotely. Cool. I'd like to work more flexible hours. Cool. So again, first thing is have. What do you want to have? Get that down. And it doesn't have to be super specific to start off with. Just like a boat, you don't need an exact destination. You just need to know we're moving in that direction, because you can then figure it out while you're going that way, and you can fine tune it. And a lot of my clients, they'll start with these kind of big goals, and then they get a bit more specific as we work together, because they start to realize their values. They start to unpick some of this stuff and realize, actually, I'm just fine tuning it a little bit. So again, roughly, where do you want to go? And then who do you have to become? Now, when it comes to who do you have to become, you have to first look at what's actually holding you back. So then this is the identity work. This is almost like the shadow work, they call it. And that's just becoming aware. Because you can't change something that you can't see. So you first have to then have a real honest look at yourself and notice, well, what are your patterns, like we said earlier on? What is your go-to when you're stressed? Is it to eat? Is it to get angry? Is it to get frustrated? What is that? When you start to get success, what is your pattern? How do you handle that? How do you feel about success? So again, there's a process behind it, but fundamentally what you're doing is you're asking yourself questions and basically self-coaching. And that's what I get my clients to do. Journaling is, I mentioned it earlier on, journaling is the single greatest tool that anybody can use because it's free. Pen and paper. So to work with me, my clients have to journal. So they journal in the morning and they journal in the evening to start off with. Because what you want to do is you want to see how you're starting the day. You want to see how you're finishing the day. And then you'll notice the patterns in between. Mm-hmm. Because if you start the day and you're feeling amazing, and then in the evening you're feeling really depressed and all teary, okay, well, what happened? And what happens is, because the brain's lazy, after a few days, in the moment, the brain will be like, we're going to write about this later on because we're doing that thing again. So you'll start to notice in the moment you're doing a pattern or something's shifted in you that you wouldn't have previously noticed because the brain's lazy. So it's like, we can write that later, so just remember this moment. So what I fundamentally get people to do is just unpick these patterns. So then who do we need to become? So who would you like to become to have these results? What do we need to do? And this is then creating a new identity. And again, becoming aware of the old identity, what's holding you back, and then who do we need to become? Who would you like to become? And it sounds simple and basic, but even just changing your wardrobe, changing the aftershave that you wear, that's a real simple, easy one. Just changing your cologne, changing the smell that you associate with yourself. Because if you've worn the same aftershave for 20 years, and that's associated with all your ex-girlfriends, all the bankruptcies you've had, blah, 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 just change your aftershave. It doesn't have to be expensive, just change that smell and associate that smell with, this is my new winner smell. This is my new future me smell. Change the wardrobe. Again, you don't have to splash the cash. Go on Vinted, whatever you've got over in America. Just get some stuff that feels good. Again, maybe getting a suit or something, like a suit jacket, a blazer, anything. Just change how you dress, because then you'll start to change how you stand, how you interact. And all these small little things help. And again, I think Ed Milet originally taught me this. It's looking at people around you, or maybe Tony Robbins actually, sorry. If you're struggling to create this new identity, look at people around you that inspire you. Look at people around you that you look up to, and ask yourself, what is it? What character traits have they got that I'd like to embody?
It's Ed.
I think Tony Robbins mentioned that as well. And again, it's just real simple stuff. It's like, okay, so actually, you know what? I love Jared. He's a great listener. Why is Jared a good listener? Because he always repeats back to me what I say. He's clearly listened, and then he adds stuff. Brilliant. Okay, so when I'm in conversations now, I'm going to listen more. I'm going to repeat. And again, why do I like Jared? He's got calm demeanor. Okay, right. So I'm more calm demeanor. All these things, because a lot of times you can't associate, well, what do I need to do? So then you get this thing, cool. Then we've got the B. Then the do is, okay, what actions then do we need to take? What action is going to help me get that result? So for example, if you want to have a business, okay, well, have you taken any courses? Have you got any idea of what it is you want to do? Like, have you even registered the company somewhere? Have you got a client? What do you need to do? And what actions each day, your habits, what actions each day do you need to do that are going to help you get that result? And again, that's a real simplistic over my clients. It's basically working through each one of those processes, but it all starts with knowing where do you want to go, what's holding you back? Who do you want to become? What habits are going to keep you there?
Right.
And then what tools can we put in place that are going to help you when life throws you a curveball? Because no matter how much identity work stuff you do, no matter how much you think you're a Zen Buddhist master, life is going to throw you curveballs.
Yeah.
And you've got to know and have tools that's going to help you and ground you and navigate that bit of uncertainty, because there's 3 C's that we're all going to face: challenge, change, complexity. So we're all going to have challenges, always. We're all going to have change, and life is always going to be complex. So it's just realizing those 3 C's, we navigate that with having these tools to help us.
Well, to add to that, I think what people don't realize, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, I think I originally stole it from Ed, is whenever life does give us the 3 C's, it reveals who our identity is. This is my favorite thing whenever I'm working with someone and they just come out of a really rough season and they don't go back to their old patterns, because your patterns are a reflection of who you believe you are. So it's such a big thing whenever that's why the 3 C's, when life gets chaotic and overwhelming and complex and all that, it's such a gift, because it sucks, but it's a concept of what I call a stress test. It shows you where the holes are at. It shows you where the problem is. So it helps. But then the other thing that was coming up for me when you were talking about that, I feel like people don't realize that their current identity is the actual problem. Everyone lives with be, do, have. Everyone lives in the world of I want that. I'm results greedy. So what do I do? And then we all have this doership pattern. We have to no, I'm an achiever. I do this. How do I diet? How do I do whatever? But most people forget our doing comes out of our being.
Yep.
Why do we brush our teeth every day? It's because there's a deep down identity of you are someone who prioritizes their oral health. It's the only reason we brush our teeth. Yeah, patterns help. Yeah, you doing it when you were a kid helps. But also it's because it's part of who you believe you are, and that's a character trait that you value in yourself. So you unconsciously brush your teeth every day. So if someone finds themselves knowing what to do but not doing it, doing well for a while then falling off, or I do good until life gets busy, work gets stressful, finances get uncomfy, and then I fall off, it's because it's part of who you believe you are. I remember I was on a sales call with someone who was applying for coaching, and she goes, well, it was either that or it was an actual coaching call. She's like, Jared, well, I'm just an all or nothing person. I go, I know. That's the problem. She goes, oh, well, I'm just the kind of person that I need my workouts mixed up all the time. I go, I know. That's the issue. Well, I'm just the kind of person that once I start, I can't stop. I go, I know. That's the problem we have to fix. We can't enable the old identity and get new results. It doesn't work.
Exactly that. The way that I say this is that you've got, again, I'm probably sure speaking in American English. It's like having a soccer ball or a basketball. You're holding this basketball with both hands, and there's an old, battered, worn down, deflated basketball that once served a purpose, but now it doesn't. And you're holding on to it with dear life. And the universe, or God, whatever you want to believe, is holding this nice, new, shiny basketball that's gold plated. And it's like, you need to let go of that old battered ball so I can throw you this. But people are so like, no, it's mine. It's like, no. You've got to let it go. Right. You've got to let it go and trust that the universe, God, whatever you believe in, is going to throw you something better. But you have to be willing to let go of that old battered ball. And it reminds me when you were talking there of the knowing doing gap, which again is something I talk about in the book, is a lot of times we do know how to do better. We just don't do it. And that goes back to what we said before about the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind is the knowing. We know consciously what to do. And the problem is a lot of the times we want to gain more information. I need to do more. I need to learn more. Okay, but that's not the issue. The issue is the subconscious programming. It's that the identity, it's the habits, it's the self-image, it's the programming. Right. That's the stuff that you need to integrate, and you need to bridge that gap. And that's the issue that people work on. They have a conscious thing, but they don't understand it's the subconscious that is responsible for 80 to 90% of the results that we actually get in our life. And that's what we've got to unpick. We've got to become aware of these programs. And a lot of the times, as I said, these programs come from school. Yeah. Even younger. And it's equivalent, again, I've got an iPhone 16 here, I know there's a 17, but it's equivalent of running your iPhone with the original iOS software and wondering why it's not working. You need to update the software. The software is the same software you've been running from childhood, and you don't realize it. Yeah. And actually it's just been updated with things that you haven't chosen. So actually just looking at it, be like, no, I'm going to update this software and I'm going to choose what other stuff I'm going to add into it.
What are some things about identity work that most people are surprised to see or experience from your perspective?
A lot of the times, the biggest thing that people struggle with is realizing how easy it is to become aware. Just that pause. The very first time people pause, they're like, I was at work and my boss was saying something, and I just took a breath. I was like, yeah. And as soon as you do that, new pattern. You've disrupted the old pattern. You're now starting to live this new identity. And it's just something so subtle. So people think that an identity shift is this massive thing. Like one day you're going to wake up and the world's changed. It's not. Identity work is just small, little steps to just slowly build up. Like again, like the wall behind me, built brick by brick by brick. And it's just, again, same with fat loss. People don't see fat loss until suddenly one day they can fit into a pair of jeans they've not worn for 10 years. It's the same thing with this identity stuff. The thing that shocks most people is how subtle these changes are, and then how profound it is once it actually kind of all connects.
Yeah.
But then also with it, I think people kind of know it, is that it can be quite isolating. And what I mean by that is, it's like tall poppy syndrome. You start to elevate your identity and you realize that people around you have maybe been holding you back. And maybe they don't have your best interests at heart. And maybe they actually liked you when you were a little bit fat and compliant because they could control you in a way. So it's about being aware of this. Actually, when you start to level up identity and you start to better yourself, what you're actually doing is highlighting to other people their shortcomings. And they don't like that.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially, again, fat loss. You've got a group of fat friends and finally you've actually changed. Well, now you've made your partner or your friends, well, if they can do it, that means that I've got to do it, but I don't want to do it. So I'm going to get them to put the weight back on again. It's going to make me feel comfortable. So with identity stuff, is realizing that it can be quite lonely.
Sure.
Understand that not everyone is going to support you on your journey. And not everyone is going to advocate for you and be your friend. It's actually normally the people that you think would be there for you could be the ones that actually secretly kind of want you to fail. Yeah. And actually people that you don't even know, they're the ones that are actually there to support you because they've been through something similar. So for me, it's just finding that community, finding that support wherever you can, because we all know that friend that has gone through some stuff. And actually, once you start to go through it yourself, you realize, actually, I understand a bit more now. I understand where that's come from.
Right. That's good. That's so good, man. And I would agree with all of that. That's so good. See,
What do you think? What do you think the biggest thing is?
The amount of resistance that's going to come from it, and how much you're, even though it goes against logic. I think the biggest thing is people think, because like I always say, everyone wants to rewire their brain and shift their identity until it's time, and it feels like the scenes from Spider-Man. It's like with anything else like that. Everyone wants accountability until it's time to be held accountable. Everyone wants tough love until it's time to have the hard conversation. Everyone wants whatever, like the especially when we're talking about psychology and rewiring how your brain works and all that stuff. It sounds really sexy and exciting, and it is the best thing ever. But it's also filled with resistance. But most people think resistance is a sign to not move forward, whereas resistance is the sign that you are in the right spot. Because the way that I like to view it, like the simple way, is trigger happens, and you want to have action over here, and the pause is of the resistance is where rewiring happens. It's like training a dog to sit that's never been taught to sit. So of course that desire for him to like, I want to go chase the squirrel. Yeah, he's got to get over that. We have to work through that. So I think for me is the resistance that comes with shifting your identity, but then it never ends either, because every new level comes a new devil. Whereas now there's also a journey of identity. Your identity ceiling now is the floor of your next one. And then you are on an identity journey for the rest of your life. So
there's a big chapter in this actually about fear. So there's a lot of fear that comes with identity shift. When you step out of that old identity, people get afraid. And again, I call it the terror barrier, or the fear barrier is how I call it in the book. And again, I've got a whole chapter dedicated to that, because people don't talk about that fear and of that change. And something I like to say is that disruption always follows intention. So as soon as you set that intention to change or better yourself, we think it's a straightforward trajectory, but it's not. A lot of the times you have to go backwards, get uncomfortable, get a bit of resistance before actually we then climb that next mountain. It's actually in that discomfort, as you said, that's a sign to keep going. For me, that's God, that's the universe saying to you, hey, do you really want this as bad as you say you do? Because it's not going to be easy. It's almost like that little challenge to test you. And most people think that means that they're going in the wrong direction, when actually it's your sign, as you said, to push through. Because once you go through that uncomfortableness, once you go through that fear, which a lot of the time that resistance is fear, it's fear of the unknown, it's fear of not being good enough, it's fear of not knowing what to do, etc., etc., etc. Once you push through that, that's when all the good stuff happens.
Man, that's so good, man. This has been the best conversation. I can't believe an hour's already flown by. Where can people get this book at?
So it comes out on 25th of November. So again, it may have already been out by the time this comes out there. So it's available on Amazon. So whether in the UK, America, wherever. So just go onto Amazon, type in the identity wheel, it's there. If you want to find out more information about me on Instagram, it's the Prime Life Project, or just Google the Prime Life Project and it'll all pop up there.
I love it, man. We will put all those links in the description, and that way everyone can get their hands on it. So thank you again for doing this. This has been great.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Always fun talking to you.
Always good. I'll talk to you soon. And we're back. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. I know if you stuck around for the whole episode, you got a lot out of this. And be sure to reach out and support Daniel. I'll leave the link below for everything, how to connect with him, say what's up, that you heard him on the show, and be sure to go get a copy of his book, because just like I talk about with Dieting from the Inside Out, we have to do the inner work if we want the outer work to actually work, and that includes your identity. So be sure and get a copy of the book. Be sure to subscribe to the show if you haven't already, and I will talk to you next week.